There is a battle, an intense battle underway that is often outside the eyesight and earshot of most Americans. White House National Trade Council Director Peter Navarro talking at the Center for Strategic and International Studies today, and he fired a clear warning shot at Wall Street and globalist elites who are now engaged in effectively subverting the Trump administration on U.S.-China trade.
When these unpaid foreign agents engage in this kind of diplomacy, so-called diplomacy, all they do is weaken this president and his negotiating position. No good can come of this. If there is a deal, if and when there is a deal, it will be on President Donald J. Trump's terms, not Wall Street terms. But if Wall Street is involved and continues to insinuate itself into these negotiations, there will be a stench around any deal that's consummated, because it will have the imprimatur of Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. So I would urge these unpaid foreign agents to stand down on this issue. No good can come of it. If they want to do good, then spend their billions in Dayton, Ohio, in the factory towns of America, where we need a rebirth of our manufacturing base and an end to the opioid crisis, which they helped create by offshoring our production.
And the Chinese by shipping tons of it, fentanyl, for example, into this country. Joining me now to take all of this up, the global elites' efforts to influence President Trump's trade negotiations to really subvert the administration. Gordon Chang, he's author of The Coming Collapse of China in place of the nuclear showdown. Let me turn first to this, and let's start with two words that a lot of people are right now hearing more of than we've heard in some time. One is globalist, and the other is nationalist. And some people are wondering, why did the national left-wing media attack the president when he used the word nationalist and then try to attach some sort of pejorative or racial connotation to it, when in fact a nationalist is a man or woman who stands up for the nation in which they live. A globalist is obviously someone concerned about the international order, a one-world order in most instances.
Yeah,
fair summation?
Yeah. The important thing here, Lou, is that President Trump's tariffs are imposed as a remedy to stop the theft of our intellectual property. Because we've got an innovation-based economy now, and if we cannot commercialize that, the Chinese are going to dominate the 21st century. This is theft to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and this is what President Trump is doing.
As much as $600 billion a year. That's larger than the trade deficit with China.
Yeah. So clearly, when you look at the reality of what he's doing, forget about the labels for a moment. He's defending the American economy, the American worker and American business.
The American way is what this president is doing on every level. He is defending its borders. He is, by the way, trying to impose law and order, to support law enforcement, build a strong military. For what purpose? To defend the nation and the American citizens who live in it. How complicated is that, except for those who obfuscate and want to change and police language so that people don't understand that this is a fight. It is an existential fight, in my judgment,
Absolutely.
For this country against the predators of China, primarily, and he has to win it. And by the way, we wouldn't even be engaged in it. Goldman Sachs and the so-called elites of Wall Street would be selling everything out to China they could find. By the way, just like they've done to American industry for some time, vis-a-vis China.
Yeah. Peter Navarro started an important conversation that this nation has to have, and that is we've got a big segment of the financial services community much too comfortable advocating Beijing's positions. And essentially what we're talking about, as we said, intellectual property theft. We need somebody to defend the American worker, the American creator of IP. And this is what we're talking about. So I think that essentially what Peter has been saying is it's important for us to go forward to defend the president, because this is, as you say, an existential fight.
Think about how sinister and insidious all of this is, because you have right now a symposium run by Bloomberg in China Here is a man who's potentially a presidential candidate conducting effectively foreign policy, and the Chinese are using that as a agency of propaganda. And as you listen to these returning Wall Street executives, I mean, it's like they're speaking from the very same talking points.
Yeah, at this Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Singapore, we have heard a number of people from the U.S. financial community say, oh, we should negotiate with the Chinese. Well, personally, I'm not prepared to negotiate with the Chinese about how much intellectual property theft we will accept.
Right.
We should be accepting zero. That's our initial position. That's our final position. Zero.
Well said. And Robert Lighthizer, Peter Navarro, and others, Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, are doing a splendid job. And we know that there are elements of the president's cabinet who want to sell it out against this president's policy initiatives. It's an extraordinarily dangerous time for this country. And Wall Street, I would say they should be ashamed of themselves, but they're not. They think they're clever and cute, and they're going to make a lot of money. That part is true. But it usually means when they do that a lot of others have lost even more. Thanks so much. Good to see you.